Mississippi pot roast is one of those things you'll see all over the internet because it's so simple to make and it's so delicious. You just throw a bunch of stuff in the pot and you're good to go. But I also saw a lot of people posting an oxtail pizza, and I thought, that's expensive. Let's find a cheaper way to do it. So I went with this Mississippi pot roast, and I'm telling y'all, it's pressure. Let's get into it. So boom, before we get started, make sure that y'all are subscribed to the channel, turn on those push notifications so you'll be the first to see these videos just like this when I post them, and make sure that y'all give it a thumbs up. So today I'll take y'all to the store with me to show y'all the options on how to make this roast. The meat I go with would be the choice chuck roast. You could also use the Walmart brand. It's a little less quality, but it'll all cook down the same. So if it's cheaper, go with that one. Now we want to get our pepperoncini. The taste of it is similar to a banana pepper, so you could substitute it with that. I don't really use this pepper a lot, so I usually try to find the smallest one or the cheapest one because it's the only recipe that I'll use this in. Don't skip it because it's unique to this recipe. And another thing you don't want to skip is the ranch. Hidden Valley has the best ranch mix that you can find, but if you don't want that, you go a cheaper route again, go with the Great Value. I recommend getting the big can of dry ranch because it just goes with everything. Now we want to go ahead and get a gravy mix. I got a low sodium one because this is where a lot of the salt will come into play into this dish. And as with everything, Walmart always has a cheaper alternative to a more expensive version. Instead of the gravy mix, you could always go with the au jus. You can really just switch these out based on your preference, but they both work just the same and you'll come out with a delicious flavor either way. And that's essentially what goes into a Mississippi pot roast. Now, a lot of people skip this step, but if you want a richer flavor, you could add a little bit of butter. And when it comes to butter at Walmart, these are my preferences from top to bottom. The top being the best, all the way to the bottom being the worst. And I'm not saying that Great Value is bad, it's just not as good as Kerrygold. Now, if you have this Drago's butter at your Walmart, use that because it adds a nice garlic flavor. Now we want to start building our pizza. To make this simple, we're going to go with an already pre-made dough. Work smarter, not harder. The star of this show is the meat, not the bread. Now, by all means, if you want to make a homemade pizza crust, you do that. I'm just trying to show y'all a quicker option. You can go with the Walmart brand. They have Pillsbury regular pizza crust, and then they have the Pillsbury thin crust. Now, based on where you're from and the grocery store you go to, they might have different options. I went to the fresh market as well, and they had this pizza crust in the freezer section. And of course, since it's the fresh market, they have the vegan option, which I really didn't think a plant-based dough worked with this recipe because it's full of beef. But that's an option for all you vegans out there. But for this recipe, I wanted to go with the puff pastry. I just love the crust that a puff pastry gives you. So I went with that, and I'm trying to stay at Walmart so we could have everything at the same spot. Just don't use the dough on the shelf like this because it tastes like cardboard. Now, what's a pizza without cheese? You can go with your favorite cheese. I don't really like the bag cheese, but if you want to, I recommend going with provolone. It goes great with this recipe. If you have a deli, let them cut the provolone for you. If you don't, just go ahead and use this right here. It'll work perfectly fine. And you don't even have to use provolone if you want. If you want cheddar, anything like that, go with that, whatever your favorite cheese is. And if you go with the shredded, the best shredded I like is this quesadilla style one. It just melts perfectly for me. Y'all try it out, and you could also use the mozzarella pearls as well. Now that basically sums up everything for this. Before we head out, I got to get me some popsicles. I love when they're already frozen. I don't have to put them in the freezer. I'm eating these on the road. And of course, before we head home, I got to make one stop because I didn't eat nothing today. And in Louisiana, of course, we have the convenience of driving up to a crawfish spot and just getting crawfish in the drive-thru. Let's be honest, who wants to work on an empty stomach? I went ahead and got me 5 pounds of crawfish, 2 turkey necks, corn, potato, all that. They even had barbecue shrimp, but I'm not going to go all out like that. But you just drive around, get your food, and this is very dangerous because it's so convenient. They work faster than any fast food restaurant you'll go to. Why wouldn't you stop? And of course, we can't drive off without securing the bag. I got home, dumped out my crawfish, got a cold drink, and went to work. And of course, you should never eat without saying your blessings first. Tow that crawfish up, now it's time to get to this pizza. Now we're going to take whatever type of roast we decided to get, and we're going to season it with salt and pepper. Get all the sides, and remember, if you ain't sneezing, it ain't seasoned. And you really don't even have to season the meat because that gravy mix and the ranch will add a lot of flavor to the beef, along with the juice from the peppers. So based on your preference, you decide what you want to do. You don't have to go crazy with it. If you don't want that much salt, don't add it. Now you could cut this up if it doesn't fit your Instant Pot, but for this one, it's a little small one so it can fit in this pot. If not, just chop it up. You also want to brown your meat. If you don't want to brown in an Instant Pot, I like to brown mine on my cast iron because it just works better that way. If you want browning in here, do it like that. If you want to add the meat straight in there like that, do that. Now I got my cast iron nice and hot. When searing meat, you want it as hot as possible. Add a little oil to start that rendering. And the reason you want it piping hot because you want your meat to touch it and instantly start searing. You want a perfectly brown crust on the outside. You don't want it to steam up. I like to add my steak press on top just so it can really get into that and that meat will push down into the cast iron. We're going to let it brown for about 4 minutes on each side. Again, you can skip this whole step if you want the whole thing to go quicker, but I just think seared meat on any type of beef is just going to make for a whole nother level of flavor. And if you don't have a cast iron, you don't have to do it. Now, once I got both sides, I made sure to get those edges right quick, and then I added it straight into the Instant Pot. Now, if you're making this in a crock pot, you can skip this next step. But when using the Instant Pot, you always want to put some type of liquid in it so you don't have that burn notification. I'm going to go with a cup of beef broth. Now we're going to come with our peppers. The amount of peppers you put in is to your preference. I like to go ahead with 10. I told y'all earlier there's alternatives to this, but traditionally, these are the peppers you want to use. They aren't really spicy. They have more of a pickled taste to it, just so you know. And on top of adding the pepperoncini, you want to add about a half a cup of the juices as well to add into the pot. And I told y'all the butter is optional. If you want to add a richer taste, just make sure that it's an unsalted butter. If you like it, add it. If you don't, leave it out. That's simple. I added about 2 tablespoons. Now we're going to go with 2 tablespoons of dry ranch mix. As I told y'all earlier, dry ranch mix goes with everything and it'll amplify that flavor to a whole nother level in almost any dish. Then we want to go with our gravy mix. A pack of this is also just about 2 tablespoons. This is the low sodium option, not saying that it's light in sodium, it's just less than the original. So y'all make sure y'all read these labels before y'all get into anything y'all put into y'all dishes. And after those 4 or 5 ingredients, that's all you really need to make this dish work. Now it's time to just seal it off. As you can see, I was having trouble getting this lid on the pot. I thought this top went to my other Instant Pot, so I was confused and I was getting real frustrated at this point. But I finally got it. And you want to set it to high pressure for 1 hour and 10 minutes. Let it natural release for 15 minutes after. And then we're going to undo that valve just to let the rest of that steam get out. Pop off that top and look at that. Yes, Lord. If we cook this in a slow cooker, it would take 6 to 8 hours to get this same level of tenderness we got in just over an hour using our Instant Pot. Thank God for Instant Pots because it's so convenient. Now, for me personally, I don't like the thickness of the sauce, so I went ahead and removed the meat, and then I'm going to put that to the side. Again, this is my preference. You do not have to do this. I like to go ahead and shred the meat up just so we can get smaller pieces to go on top of our pizza. And you can shred it up in the pot with the juices, but I just want to make my juice a little bit thicker because I'm going to use that same juice as a sauce. Now to thicken it, you want to add a little bit of cornstarch to water. I went with 1/4 cup of water to a tablespoon of cornstarch. You want to make sure it's well blended. This is what you call a slurry. You add it to any hot liquid and it'll thicken it up. So we'll throw that into our Instant Pot, give it a nice mixing, turn our Instant Pot to saute mode so it can get a nice little sizzle to it. Then we're going to let that simmer until it gets a nice thickness of the gravy consistency that we want personally. Now it's time to start building this pizza. I went with the puff pastry, of course. It has a nice flakiness and it's going to be perfect for this pizza. It comes with a parchment paper that you can put straight in the oven, but since it's going to be heavy, I'm going to go ahead and add it onto a baking sheet so it doesn't fold down and drip all over the oven. Again, use whatever pizza crust you want. Once we get it laid out, now we're going to go ahead and start putting our toppings on. As with any pizza, we want to start off with the sauce. You could use ranch dressing or the gravy. You could even go as far as using the Alfredo sauce. Just add a nice even layer, and then we're going to go ahead and get started with the cheese. When I make Mississippi pot roast, I usually make a melt out of it. So I usually use provolone cheese, so I thought it would be a perfect base for the pizza. I added about 12 slices to the whole pizza. No, you're not about to eat this whole pizza alone, so go crazy with the cheese. Now, this is the part we've all been waiting for, the meat. Add as little or as much as you want. Go crazy on one side, make it light on the other side. The choice is yours. Now you want to remove any stems from all the peppers, and then we're going to add the peppers on there as well. And you could add any other toppings like roasted garlic, anything your heart desires. I like to top it off with the quesadilla cheese. Add as much as the Lord allows. I need all that. I cut off any of the excess parchment paper on each side, and now we're going to put this in a preheated oven at 425 degrees for 30 minutes to 35 minutes. The last 3 minutes, you could throw it under the broiler, but I don't think it's necessary. Go ahead and pop it out the oven, and then look at this. Yes, Lord. This will feed the whole family and some. There's so many different things you could do with Mississippi pot roast. It's so easy to make. You can eat it over rice, eat it over mashed potatoes, eat it on a sandwich, eat it as a pizza. I'm telling y'all, it's pressure. Now, everybody has their favorite slice. Mine is the end piece. That crust on the end is nice and crispy. It's flaky. It's just perfect. It's my favorite piece. I need that. Save that for me. Y'all got the rest of the pizza. Make sure y'all hit that like button and subscribe. And just like my name, y'all done.